Like, you guys, I'm in the parking lot and I almost forward parked until I realized and remembered that the hospital cats are brutal. They will scratch the bonnet of your car. Like, they just sit on top of your car and are like, okay, so what you gonna do? So I don't have the strength to find a black cat, or I do not. Like, I don't play with cats. To all the cat lovers, sorry, but cats are unpredictable and like the weirdest like animals. I feel like cats can literally kill in your sleep. I don't know. So yeah, I had to reverse park because I'm not gonna be fighting a cat. Anyways, let me just go in and then we will continue. I swear to you, this place is so creepy. It is so creepy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Ann and this is the Health Hub. So if it's your first time tuning in, make sure you like, you comment, and you subscribe. And to everyone who's subscribing and keeps on watching and even watching my old videos, thank you so much. It's not only specific to the lab space, but it's also, I think, relevant to any specialty, even though I've asked a couple of my friends who are already registrars in different fields to assist, by giving, even if it's like 5 minutes, conversations on how they got into those particular registrar posts in those, in the various departments. So yeah, that's what will be coming up like in the future that you have to watch out for. But for now, I think it's more in general. I'll touch a bit about the lab space and the clinical space, but it's generally just, general on how to get into a registrar post. So this is both relevant to medical officers, this is both relevant to interns, ComServes. I know there's been about a bunch of eager beavers who are, still in university or medical school, whatnot, that really do want to know and are interested to see if there's anything that they can do to make sure that, to increase their chances of getting registrar posts in the future. So that also can apply to them, even though there's not much they can do. But I'll also touch on what you can do as a medical student who's still in varsity, and what you can do in order to increase your chances of getting into a post or just getting a post. There's two different kinds of people who know what they want and people who are uncertain of what they want, right? And it's okay. I feel like it's okay. I was one of those uncertain people. And then you sort of like, let life drive or take you wherever, God wants you to be. So pertaining to people who actually know what they want to do, the nice thing about them is that they can have a direct, approach when it comes to the types of courses they do, when it comes to, the type of efforts that they put in the various things that they do. So that in me saying that, I mean in terms of, for example, if you know that you want to be a surgeon, you can do ATLS, you can do ACLS, those first aid courses. You can start with your primaries quite early. So when you know what you want to do, it sort of like speeds up your whole process. Whereas I feel people like myself, like I was like, especially when I started working, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like I didn't mind, like I love theater, I love cutting, I like a lot of things, but I was just like, okay, I don't like calls, so maybe let's rethink. Maybe let's rethink real quick what I'm meant to be doing. So obviously, sometimes having to get into the clinical space and actually work sort of like makes you reconsider your other options. So in that case, you can also work towards increasing your chances of getting a post by, getting a diploma that is general. Like I feel like internal med can take you into fem med, can take you into derms, can take you into actual, medicine, or like if you want to be a physician, it can, like, there's things that are general, like diploma in HIV can also take you into the labs. So I feel like there's certain certificates that you can get that are quite general, that are gonna sort of like broaden your chance of getting into whatever it is that you want to get into. Like the diploma one can also get into research. So there are certificates that are there that won't, like, you don't have to not do anything because you're not sure what you want to do as of yet. That's what I'm trying to say. So in saying that, it is important that you figure out what it is that you want to do, so that you're able to sort of build up like a resume. And you building up a resume is you having at least certificates, at least a diploma, at least like training in something. You can't just have your MBCHB. But in saying that, there's people who have gotten in like with nothing. So I think it's also luck of the draw, like what's meant to be and what's not. But in these times where the competition is so high, like so much better for one to actually have certificates sort of like back up their knowledge and for them to be able to compete with their peers. And currently a lot of these specialties won't take people without diplomas or people without primaries. I know some of the surgical specialties you even have to have intermediates. So it's ridiculous, guys. It's getting tougher and tougher. So in order for you to know the types of certificates that are required in a particular field, you Google CMSA, right? Go on Google CMSA, and then you look up the different types of schools that there are. So there's like School of Pathology, Internal Med, Urology, or for urologists, etc. So there's different types, of fields that. So once you enter under those particular fields, you'll be able to then see the types of stuff that's offered, under that particular, school of field. So it could be, like a diploma in this or certificate in this. It varies per field. So you have to know what you want to do, and then you have to stick to it. If you don't pick things that are quite general, like general medicine, internal med, something like, some people will do a DPEC or diploma in emergency care. Varies based on where you sort of like see yourself. So now that we've figured out, right, you've figured out what you wanted to do, you've attained your certain, certificates in whatever it is that you want to do. Some people will opt not to wait until they get certificates for them to start applying. You can do that. So some people will actually opt to wait to, attain the specific certificates, ACLS, ALTLs, whatever it is that they want based on which field they want to be in, which is either clinical or surgical research, whatever, be it courses in ultrasound, like anything, guys, like anything literally goes, as long as there's a certificate for it. So after you've done all of that and you've decided that this is what you want to do, step number 1, look for vacancies, right? Where do you find these registrar posts? So you Google Department of Health vacancies. So it depends which province you want to be in South Africa. So you can Google Department of Health vacancies, Eastern Cape. You can Google Free State, KZN, whichever province that you want, or Gauteng. Basically, then it will take you to that, government page, which I'll put down here. And then, that's where you'll be able to see the different, bulletins and the ads and etc. Then obviously you'll enter the one that's relevant to you, because it shows you the various things like registrar, internal medicine, medical officer in whatever, in psychology. They normally release around 2 a month. Yeah, it's around 2 a month. And if you are interested in going into the lab space, you then go to, it's the same thing. You can Google NHLS vacancies, because the Department of Health has an NHLS section there where they also post a bunch of their vacancies and stuff, because NHLS, which is the labs, is parastatal to the DOH, so it is like a section of it, like it's like private, but it's not. Like it's together, but it's not, right? But you can see, even if you Google NHLS vacancies, that's where you see the lab registrar posts, right? This is just a side note. You can only apply for registrar post ComServe. So as a ComServe, you can't apply. So a lot of people are already eager. You find I've seen a lot of ComServes who already have like primaries, who are going for intermediates. Like some people like are quite serious out there, like in life, and which is a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing, So I think those are the things you can try to squeeze in during your ComServe if you're like very eager, and and try to get those, out of the way, so that by the time you are done with your ComServe, you can quickly apply and you sort of like qualify and sort of are able to compete with the people who've already been in the field, even if they've been in the field for longer, right? And you can get lucky. Some people are lucky like that. Like they can get registrar posts immediately and straight after ComServe. So after you've found those things on the sites, obviously they have like addresses where you can send these things, and that's the unfortunate thing about these things, that it's expensive. When you are applying and you're trying, obviously they say they don't take stuff that's scanned or whatever, so it has to be like real copies, right, of everything. And the annoying thing about it is that you have to either courier it, which is like so expensive, especially when having to courier something to a hospital that's like in the townships, like Bahara, any hospital. Like the courier companies sort of like increase their tariff when it comes to delivering stuff to hospitals, because obviously it takes time, like walking, trying to find HR, and then sometimes they have to write your name onto those forms. So it was just like gross. Like I had to pay 500 once. Like I was just so annoyed, and I didn't even get the post. I didn't even get called for interviews. Ew. Yeah. So that's the annoying thing about it, is that, you know, the uncertainty, when having to mail your things to these various places, unless you're lucky enough to be staying, you know, in the city and whatnot. That's what you're gonna do. The nice thing about NHLS is that they take emails. So if you're applying into the lab space, at least that one was the best one for me, in that you could, you know, submit, because they just want scanned stuff. So you just send your stuff in by email, right? So those are the places that you would look into. I'm not, just as a side note, besides RegShip, if you're wanting to get into corporate medicine, you would then use LinkedIn as your main portal for applications. Okay, now let's get to the next step when it comes to creating a CV. So basically, when it comes to CVs, there's a cover letter and there's the actual CV, right? So what happens is that you have to write your cover letter. Some people say they never read it, but I feel like probably, like, there's some places you might get unlucky and you find places that do read it. So basically, when it comes to CVs and CV making, I used an app, like I found user friendly, that's called My Resume or something. Yeah, I'll put a picture of it. And it made things so much easier, because it would have like an example of how to write out a cover letter and the different things to write, you know, based on the different fields that you fall under. And I know people who pay people to create CVs for them. It's so unnecessary. You don't have to find someone, or, you know, pay someone to make a CV for you, because that whole app like puts it together for you. So you go on the app, you write your cover letter, and just to be safe, take your cover letter, copy, paste it on ChatGPT. Don't say I told you this, but go paste it on ChatGPT and write, please write concisely, quotation mark, put it in there, close it, and then then it will write it concisely, whatever, fix your spelling mistakes or like spelling errors. It'll give you better English. Obviously, English is not our first language, guys. So yeah, so you'll see it gives you the various fields. You just fill in everything. The important thing that you have to put in your CV are the highlights, right? Highlights of your career. So if you got like an A for something, if you did very well in a particular something, if you got a certificate for some particular something, I think there's a field there where it states like my achievements or something. So it is important that you pick something like that and put it there. I feel like sort of like highlights and stands out. And yeah, with regard to putting a picture or not, I say put the damn picture. Like, I prefer a picture. Like, I feel like as a person shortlisting, it makes so much sense for like, it puts, I don't know, like it makes the things make sense. I know some people are like, oh, your CV doesn't have to have your picture. I say put your picture on your CV. Pick your best picture. It's going to generate a whole complete CV with cover letter for you. Then you're going to be able to pick whichever design you like. I like the modern ones that show like a nice picture, and like, it's nice, man, guys. You'll see on that app. It creates really nice CVs for you, right? So after it creates that whole thing for you and your cover letter is proper, then you can print it, and yeah, then Bob's your uncle. So the next thing, which is what people do when they are waiting for their application, is basically to visit the departments that they want or they have applied into. So shortly after, having, applied, people will visit the particular department. So let's say you want to get into microbiology, or you want to get into hematology adverts, or UP whatever. So people tend to go visit, that particular department to show that they're interested in that, field. Some people will go visit whatever specialty that they want to get into, or university that they have applied, so that they make themselves known. So that's why I'm saying that the picture helps, because if the people have seen you and obviously they see you in your picture, then like, oh, this is the girl that came to visit. That sort of increases your chances of like being picked or like getting in. So it is important that you put your picture there. I put your picture there. And I feel like this also is important because you are competing among a lot of people. I remember this one time at work, they were talking about how there's interviews and there's one post and there's 50, applicants. So how else are you going to stand out? Like, it's either the people know you, like, some of us got lucky in that we got taken and hadn't, visited, the departments and etc. But some people, have to do that. Like, you have to go visit. They have to know you, at least for you to get shortlisted, in order for you to at least prove yourself, especially in the labs. Like in clinical, you can get away with, not being known and getting in. But in the lab space, it's rare. So another thing to do while you're waiting, for your call back is to, get in touch with the people who are already in the field. And by people, I mean other registrars. So obviously, we know people, or someone who knows someone, or you work in a hospital where, there are registrars to begin with. So guys, there's no way you won't find someone in whichever field that you want to go into. If push comes to shove, literally take a day off and go to that particular department and ask the people who are working there, and ask to find and talk to, one of the registrars. So they will be the right people to tell you the types of stuff that are being asked, the types of questions that are being asked, because you can't go in there blindly. Like, you cannot go in there blindly. It's better to go in having, an anticipation of the types of questions that are going to be asked, because you get thrown off, especially having not been to inter. Guys, shy, like as people, we are shy, like we are nervous, we are anxious, kuningi. So it's better when you know the questions, because you can at least prepare like answers sort of like in a couple of points. So it is important, ask the registrars what's being asked. So after having prepped, you remain in prayer and hope that you get called back, right? And there's a lot of factors that determine whether or not you get called back. I know sometimes it can be very discouraging being rejected, and obviously there's a lot of things that factor in, and it can be things like whether or not who were you competing with the people we were competing with, like how many, their credentials, there's a lot of things that come into play, their background, they have more experience. Some people have research experience and all of these things. So it really, really depends that did you apply at the right time with a right group of people? Were you better than most of the people? Because sometimes paper can't really speak for you. It's not like an interview. It's only in an interview where you can sort of like speak for yourself. Moving on swiftly. Let's say then you have been called in for an interview, right? So what do you then do? At this point, you're not scared, right? Because you already have your bank of questions that are being asked. You have to be confident. Like, I don't know what you tell yourself in your mind in order for you to gain confidence to be able to speak in front of people. I don't know. Convince yourself like that you are the bomb.com. For some people, this comes naturally, and they are just confident and are comfortable, in selling themselves. And some people, they're a bit shy. That's why I'm like, if you're not, you cannot be looking down, you cannot be fidgeting, you cannot be like, you can't be shaking, you can't be caught shaking. Make sure that you tell yourself whatever it is that you need to tell yourself in order for you to have confidence, to be able to look people in the eye, in order for you to be confident, in order for you to, speak for yourself and answer for yourself. For me, it was also a thing of like, if I don't do this, like I will be stuck in an MO post all my life, and I don't want that. Like, I know some people don't care for that, but I did not want that. And that is a real possibility. So it's either you do that, or you gonna stay wherever it is that you are in that particular level. And guys, like I don't care. Like that's a story for another day. The other thing, is also not to be overly confident, because that can be interpreted as a bad thing, I feel. So you sort of have to have a balance to be like, okay, yes, I am this person. I am able to speak up. I am able to project, but also I am not like cocky. I'm not arrogant. I have, humility, and I'm a person who's teachable. So you sort of have to find a balance within that. And that's not only in the things you say, but in your mannerisms and how you carry yourself. Obviously, dress to the part. Like, yeah, don't look like, don't go there in scrubs. Like, look like a professional person, and button up shirt and all of that. Professionally, blazer, I don't know. Just don't look a hot mess. So let's touch on the types of questions that they ask, right? So when it comes to interviews, there's standard questions and there's like cases, right? Things that test your knowledge. So with the standard questions with clinical medicine, or with the clinical medicine, types of things they are more likely to ask, or they like asking. They also ask these in MO posts, right? So it's things like, what are the Batupile principles? the qualities of, I don't know, the qualities of like a good doctor, or why do you think you're good for this role, or what else do they ask in clinical, guys? They like batupile, they like conflict management. So they will have like a thing of, oh, so if you fight with a colleague, or you see a colleague giving the wrong dose to a patient, blah, blah, blah. Like, so you have to sort of like either have an approach as how you would answer like people fighting, or someone doing something wrong at work and you're having to address that, or you have to have a scenario in your bag to say, because they can ask you like, okay, tell us about a situation where you had a disagreement with your colleague. So you have to have like an example, even if it's a lie, make it up, make it make sense, believe it, say it. Anyways, when it comes to the lab space, the types of questions that they like to ask are things like the standard things like, what is the NHLS, blah, blah, blah. You find that information on the website. What are the subsidiaries of the NHLS? They like asking, what are the roles of a registrar in that particular field? So they'll say, what are the roles of a micro, registrar? What are the roles of a chemical pathology registrar? Whichever field that you'll be applying for. They will also ask, and those things are the things that you will ask the registrars when you go visit that place, or whoever it is that you will have as a contact. You have to ask them these things so that you're able to answer. So yeah, they'll ask, ask the roles. They'll ask like the responsibilities. They'll ask who are the stakeholders. They'll also ask, almost in every interview, they'll also ask, what do you think it takes to open a lab in maybe a rural area, or like what are the considerations or things that you'll take into consideration opening a lab. Another one that comes standard in almost all interviews when it comes to the lab space is quality controls, especially ChemPath, QCs. They like asking about QCs. So you have to, if you're like in a rural area or whatever, maybe go visit your like local lab, like even if it's like labs with no pathologist and just like medical scientists or medical technologists, you can still ask them like, what's QC? Then they'll show you around, whatever. They'll ask you external quality control, internal quality controls. Almost in all interviews, those are like the standard lab questions. I'm not sure about, I know ClinPath and ChemPath, yes, standard, but I'm not so sure about heme and micro, but I feel like they also ask those there. There's the standard questions, and they also ask conflict management, right? So then when it comes to cases, the clinical side, the types of cases they asked when I went to that one interview. I'm not sure if it was an MO or Reg interview, but anyways, they asked, what did they ask? They asked like an approach to like a young stroke. What else did they ask? Like an approach to a young stroke. They can ask like things like, if someone comes in like chest pain, an approach. Yeah, it's basically like most of the emergency stuff. So for me, it helped because I was reading casualty. Even in the lab space, rest assured, the lab people take their stuff seriously, guys. Do not sleep on them. So they asked approach to anemia for a ClinPath one. Obviously, you have to touch on the micro, section. You have to touch on the heme section and hematological causes of anemia. And then the chemical pathology side. So you have to sort of like, when you're doing a ClinPath one, sort of cover all bases. Whereas if it's ClinPath, obviously they won't ask anemia. They like asking things like DKA in almost all interviews. So you have to sort of have an approach when it comes to a DKA patient. And just also to highlight, when it comes to the lab space, I know in clinical, your approaches would be like on presenting like how you would write up a patient, like on history. History, presenting complaint, management, don't. Whereas in the labs, management and presenting complaints, not so much. But you have to sort of like touch on a bit of history, like things to look out for in past medical history, or things that you would consider when it comes to that. So you can go about it like that. But the best way to go about when answering lab-related questions, breaking it down into the pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical phases. So yeah, when it comes to a particular analyte, what are the pre-analytical considerations, things like hemolysis, time for specimen to run, if the patient the serum is lipemic, things like that. Like obviously, like they know, especially when you're coming from clinical, they can be like forgiving. You don't have to be like perfect, but they just need to sort of like see that you like kind of have an idea of, the different influences, the instruments, that there's calibrations, there's quality controls that go into place, the reporting, the reference ranges, sex specific, not sex specific. Is it normal for this patient? Is the reference change values, the biological variation, what accounts for this change in this result of this particular patient, etc., etc. So I won't get deep when it comes to that, but those are sort of like the types of things that, to look out for. But I also have a friend of mine who in their interview, I think because they know that we don't get exposed to the field, they were given a topic and told to like prepare for it. So you can get interviews that are like that. So that's also something to sort of like take note of. I know some people say apparently getting into derms is like disgustingly hard. I know someone who was like a friend of theirs used to drive like from Bumalanga to like Vets for like almost every academic presentation. That's disgusting, guys. Like, how much money do you have in order for you to like drive like over like 300 kilometers almost every week just so that they see you? Like, do you have to lay down your life for them in order for them to know that you are serious? Like, and it's hard. Like it sometimes it comes down to who wants it more and who's willing to put in the most amount of work when it comes to that, because sometimes we are all possessing the same certificates, but yeah, well, depends. Basically, just the gist on how the interviews are conducted and how they go and the different types of things that are normally asked in these interviews. Then after that, okay, guys, it's up to God, because you can even be good. I know in the lab space, even if if they have a comserve, let me just say it like that. If they have a comserve of theirs that they want to retain, it doesn't matter how good you are. Even if you got more points for the interview, they will take the comserve because it's easier, like it's an easier transition process, especially for HR, especially for everyone. So that's the unfortunate truth. It's rare when you are competing against comserves when it comes to the lab space that you're able to win. So yeah, like I said, it depends also on what if that round in which when you applied, there were like comserves, then obviously you're not gonna get it. Like, it's just unfortunate. Like, that's why I was like, it's just luck, sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's also just prayer. So I say shoot your shots, give it your all, and you will see what happens, So yeah, that's basically what happens. Okay.